Hello everybody. Today's video is going to be on some of the budget or certainly less than premium brand name SD cards. In my case, I bought these for my FIMI X8 SE 2020 drone, which records in 4K 30, but this can apply to any number of other drones. So if you have an interest there, it could also work in dash cams or other things. The three cards that I have here today are all rated as 64 gigabyte Class 10 U3 V30 A1 cards. It's a mishmash of terms there, but generally that's the rating you're going to look for in your device, or it may be recommended in your documentation, so forth. But obviously the 64 gig is the raw space. Your Class 10 U3 V30 A1 are pretty much speed related. The A1 is an application rating, but you can read up more on that if you'd like. When you buy these things, they say 64 gig in this case. What you get, if it's legit, should format to around 58 gigabytes. It will vary depending on whether using FAT, FAT32, exFAT, NTFS, or some other file system. As they all have a little bit of overhead, it will have slight impact on your formatted capacity. So don't think that because your formatted capacity is not 64 that you got cheated or you've got a bogus piece of hardware. The key thing here that we're discussing is the speed ratings. All three of these are rated to write at up to 30 megabytes per second. That's key, and it's an important number, is megabyte versus megabit. The key thing to keep in mind here is the differences. My drone, for example, writes at variable speed up to 100 megabits per second. These cards are rated for 30 megabytes. A byte is 8 bits. So essentially what that boils down to is if your drone writes at 100 megabit, it's writing to the card at 12.5 megabyte per second. So that 30 megabyte per second rating should be more than sufficient. That's what we're after. We're having a card that will comfortably handle what you're going to throw at it. I did a little research into these beyond the drone that I own and looked up, and these cards, I should say, will work well on the DJI Mavic, the Mini 2, the new one, the Mavic Air 2, which on its support page is listed as writing at 120 megabit per second, which still only equates to 15 megabytes, so more than capable. This will also work on any of the Hubsan Xeno line. This card will even work according to the specs for the Autel Evo 2 with an 8K camera. So it's safe to say if you get a card that meets the specifications, it should have no problem with your drone, essentially regardless of what you have. As long as it's not a commercial drone, you should be fine. I do also want to point out that when you're doing your own speed test at home, when you buy one of these cards, if you don't see the numbers that are advertised, don't initially assume that you got a bogus card, that you got a fake or something of that nature. In my machine, which is about a 4 or 5 year old HP Envy, it has an i7 processor, 16 gig of memory, and a GeForce GTX 750 Ti, I believe it is. So it was a pretty decent machine when it came out. It's probably run-of-the-mill now. I will have some screenshots up of the tests of these speeds in different formats, but one thing that I wanted to point out is the machine that I have comes with a card reader built in, and your desktop might, if you're using a laptop, it may also have one, and it works just fine. But if you run a speed test on the card that's inserted in that media slot, it does not get particularly good speeds on my machine. So I went out and I bought a Uni SD card reader. You can get that on Amazon. I think I may have paid 12 or 13 bucks. It's a USB 3 or 3.1 rated, and I have USB 3 slots available to me in my PC. And the speeds that I got using that adapter were substantially better than the built-in media reader. Some of them came close to the 30 megasecond. Some exceeded. You'll see that when I put up the screenshots, but just be aware that if you have an older machine and you're using one of these media slots, your speeds are not going to show what the specs claim that they can do, and it may not be the card. It may just be your hardware. In any case, I don't think I even saw the maximum that they're rated for, and at least on a couple of these cards with my machine. Now, it's possible that a normal person's computer will not get those speeds. They may have gotten that speed rating in a lab, and it's just not something we can quite duplicate. So we may not see that maximum rating. But the key here is, can it do the 30 megabyte per second that it claims? I will also throw out as an example that I have a Samsung Evo Plus 32-bit or 32 megabyte card that's rated for 20 megabit per second according to the website. Yet I got 25 megabit with that Uni SD card reader. So that's a case where the manufacturer actually exceeded the rating. That's what some of the quality names will get you. Some of the budget names may only meet the 30 megabyte rating in the lab, and you may not see that. Now, as we stated earlier, the 120 megabit write speed of the Mavic Air 2 is still only 15 megabyte. So you could have a card that's not top of the line that will work for you just fine. There's certainly nothing wrong with buying the big name brands. They've earned their reputation with time. They do tend to cost a little more. The reason I got the ones I did is just a test, more of a curiosity, but also for a couple bucks more than some of those big names, I can get twice the storage. So in my case, for a couple bucks more than one of the SanDisk drives that was recommended by my manufacturer, I got 2 other cards for 64. So I've got more space to put these videos for about the same cost. That's what I was going for. So I'm going to throw up some screenshots, and you'll get to see the numbers, and you'll get to see the brands that we're talking about and how they came out. So I will get with the screenshots, and I will see you in a couple minutes. Okay, you've had a chance to see the screenshots, and you saw how they all panned out. So, the 3 cards that were up there, they were all 10 bucks. From Amazon is where I got them. Some of them are available elsewhere. I'm all about supporting your other vendors rather than the big titan Amazon. It was just a matter of convenience at the time, but that is where I got them. And at the time that I got them, they were all $10. I have seen them vary just a little bit. A buck or two. I have not seen them get below 10, but I have seen them go up a buck or so. So, according to these results, you should have no problems getting the rated 30 megabyte per second from any of the 3 cards. But assuming the prices are the same, obviously the Patriot is your best choice for the money, followed by the Cutillon, or however they say that, and the Pioneer. So those all 3 are suitable cards, and while I never discussed them, you could see that they each had their read speeds. The read speeds I was far less concerned with, because getting it off the card is a few extra seconds is no big deal. The biggest thing here is, can it handle the sustained write that we want to give it with our device. When it comes to moving it off the card to manipulate it in your video editor or whatever you're going to do, a couple extra seconds to read it off the card is not going to be overly impactful, and I would not recommend manipulating it on the card directly, but copying it off to your hard drive and then doing the work on that copy. You do have limited reads and writes, or not reads, but writes to the cells that are in your SD card. No use making all your changes and using that as an extra hard drive unless you really need to. Just copy it off and use it on your PC or laptop. So there you go. There's 3 budget cards. At some point I may get a couple others and we'll see how they go. The good news is that all 3 of them work fine. The better news is that for the same price you can get some that far exceed the 30 megabyte rating and may be suitable in other devices you have. But they all meet the specs, which is good news. I didn't waste my money on anything. And they give you some options that aren't the higher cost name brand device manufacturers, so you can get a little more storage for your money and have fun with your new devices. Hope this was informational and that you got something useful out of it. At the very least, you know what you can buy safely. And again, in your device you may or may not see the same speeds, but if legit, these cards are capable. My final recommendation is whatever device you intend to use these in, format the card in that device. You'll just know that it should work without issues. If you format it in one format on your machine and it wants something else in the device, you may have issues. So whenever possible, format it in the device you intend to use it in. You'll just get better results with that. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below and I will try to respond as promptly as I can and with as detailed information as I can come up with for you, and I will help you if I can.